This is a 1,201, the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, 1201. If you like sponsor, come share my the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, please come me directly, very greatly appreciated. Say we're doing, you're there, Sim Kuf Chaf Aleph, Sif Dalet to Yud. Dalet, Kosar Ben Rama, Sif Hey, Afilu Kalim Shish Tashim Shem Mitzoinin, even vessels which are used cold. If you have concern that perhaps they heated wine in the vessel, clay kesef, such as silver vessels, I guess silver bechers and such like. Nogim Magil, the custom is to kasher, and it shows to not deviate. Mafil tables and shulchanos, even boxes and tables. And he calls me akum, taken from non-Jews. Nogim Magil, the custom is to kasher. Shemanish b'kolei mechamin, maybe hot stuff fell on them. Tafel chatchila, it's preferable to do that. Yeah, but if you didn't do it, ain't no because they don't be concerned. Where earthenware vessels, which were used for cold, since you can't conjure them. It's called the Evan. It's enough to scrub and rinse wear very well. And then afterwards, you put even sharp stuff like vinegar. Because and certainly hard stuff like spices. A similar thing was with silver or other metal vessels where you have to be concerned, where you're concerned that wine was in them for 24 hours or more. Have they covered, which is soaked, and it's preferable to kasher. But if you can't do that, it's after the fact, you don't have to be concerned. Mishum dochim kliach harot hashim shekos go by vessel after most of its usage. Zesh kosab lagil tables shulchanos, that which he said to kasher. Boxes and tables. These by this talking about shir they really baros for the shulchan. Since there was bolea by spillage, so you can kash them by spillage, spilling hot water on the table. Perhaps a chametz with a terabala, he was more meko. That's an Arukh, perhaps not here. And also that's only the chatchila. I feel chatchila. And even this, I would say the chatchila, it's only by the simple table. Abu Shulchanas Yafim, Tzvuim, but with I guess expensive and colored tables. That if you cash them, they're going to get ruined. Ain't no again about gola. In the chatchila, we don't do cash them. Just rinse them very well. That's because on fancy tables, people don't try to make sure at least not to spill a soup, as is well known. Hey, but that was sure about earthenware used cold requires an explanation. By default, the pottery vessel, earthenware vessel, even if which is used. You're not allowed to buy it. To me, who says they didn't use it for hot? He said about plates and such like, which are not used for cooking. Okay, stuff which you drink coffee. Which presumably is hot. But nevertheless, it's only just coffee, plain. Even though they put in milk, they say don't come us because of that. Even they put boiling hot milk in that mug. You come lava klisheni, it's still only klisheni. It could be that they're pouring from a kli rishon. If I have an iroi and it's pouring from kli rishon, the osik te klipa, which asers te klipa, although it's unlikely with the milk and the coffee today because the milk usually comes cold, but maybe it's steamed milk. And of course, he's going to shita, so the chol would be a problem. Perhaps even the Evan. But first, since you put the coffee in first, you pour the milk on the coffee. Kave uvadai klisheni, certainly the coffee itself is klisheni, though it's sochist, and then the plate or the mug. It's time out, so the milk also cools down a bit. Come move on. But that's only stuff where you know it's been used for cold or for things which are mutter. But if it's unknown, you should not take them, buy them unless they're new. Vav, those are great. Ask a great question. Come on, hey. Then we learn later on the kli cheres even when you use them for cold. You have to fill them up and spill them out. Uh, uh, why not here? That's a Shach's question, the Prichoder's question. So they gave a difficult answer. The Kamirish, Akum, here it's about where they were used before they came to the non-Jews' hands. So in that case, they don't absorb anymore. V'yav shalom arkein. We can't say this. It's close to me not safe. It should have been explained if that was actually the case. Furthermore, furthermore, this is about buying kelim from them. We call them Eitz Yisrael. How can we say that? It's talking about where Yisrael sold to a guy who sold back to a Jew. Highly unlikely. Then the years 13 years low kashikal. Which one says it's not difficult. The Sham Irina there's about kelim shmachlisim yain, vessels with which they put wine. Kam Irina we talk about kelim she'ein dakom mishtam shem yain kaya do etzleinu. Here we're talking about vessels which you don't use wine, as is known by us to klicheres ketanim, by small earthenware vessels. Ain't shosim bem yain klau. You don't drink wine in them. Rakli tzolichis. You only drink wine in glassware. You also not talking about here large pottery vessels, earthenware vessels, which you store the wine. I believe we're talking about small vessels, like we were previously. Also, there's no issue here of boiling. Because they're only putting this glassware, either cold things or shosim and coffee, or they drink coffee, etc. In this case, there's no problem with this. Certainly large klicheres, which are like pots and different size. Abkaras are large plates, and pots. Shochlim bahem. Well, tamkoi is probably a larger plate. Anyway, which you eat vade also because they hold hot stuff, which is put over gush, and obviously it's maintains all kli rishon. The kamrei mektanim we're talking about small stuff. K'mosh k'savdu. Zayin v'dad the zesh kosa b'kli cheres yishtamish b'tzoyim mutzal yitem b'achar afilu dvorim charifim k'chay. That's what he said. If you use the kli cheres for cold, you can put in even sharp stuff afterwards, like vinegar. It doesn't mean that boiling stuff you can't put in them. They ain't okay. That's not true. The head Yoshina Raisa, we learned the Raisa. If you use something just for cold, with the cold over, you're allowed to put even something hot afterwards. He may was used for cold, so you can put hot afterwards. Came with the Hegel, but okay, it's explicit in Rokech. We say they say stuff which you use for cold, mediach with rinse them in cold, the sake, and that's enough. Whether you use them in cold again, you use them in hot. I feel even they're pottery. You don't normally use boiling stuff in them. That's why sharp stuff, which is more likely. Cold, sharp stuff. Which you put in occasionally. But the boiler also comes to indicate us that in a kli iser which you use something boiling, which is also after tzoni shel heter mutar yishtamish bo k'mosh yispar, even though something cold of heter, you're allowed to use it, as we shall see. Advarim charivim, much sharp stuff, afil yivashim, even dry, because in chumet shulachet, and certainly vinegar, which is moist, also yishtamish bo, you're not allowed to use. In other words, something was used for hot. This is the keli. Va'afil di'evet, even also di'evet use keli, which is used for hot iser for afterwards for for hot or sharp heter. For Isi, our Darki Moshe says, I saw Eza Noshim Bekilim B'chaim Etzli No B'kli Iser V'chulei V'leisa. I saw people in make put vinegar in a kelim which had been used for Isser, and it's not true. Contrary, rather longish brackets here. Taz writes, Darki Moshe Kosav Isi Shesh Mekilim B'chaim Etzli Umi Idea Adocha Shari, but by rinsing it's okay. Which because the Rash Basov Simon Zelin Chard Baruch Harifim, like Rash was in terms of other sharp stuff. Ad kan l'shono. This is very difficult. As Arukh HaShulchan says, Dvar Tmud is astonishing. He's not writing this about a Kli Isser which is used for hot, which certainly is not enough to rinse. This is what the Barki Moshe says. Scrubbing, rinsing does you nothing. Rashi only talks about cutting something sharp, like a radish. That's interesting. It's more lenient to cut an onion on a kli visser than it is to put vinegar in it, because it emits more. And that is in a kli isser shemish when we use chamin ma inyan zel lezeh. And there's nothing to do with the that Rashba about sakin davar charif. Yeah. Ches odkas absif aleph. Rama also wrote, I think it's Rama, and Sif Av Yesh Komash Nagu Heter Osum Yain B'Kelim Shin Nisveim B'Dukakim B'Chelev. Those who allow you to put wine in barrels where the boards are glued together with tallow, with non-kosher fat. Because wine flees from the fat. In other words, it doesn't get mixed in. It's just like oil and wine don't mix. Certainly, fat and wine don't mix. The chalev is solidified, stands on its own. It doesn't touch wine at all. Also, the wine that touches the chalev gets mixed up with the other wine. That's still not considered batal isser. You don't have a mind to negate the prohibition, so that's not a problem. Unless the Isser don't have mind to negate the prohibition and enjoy the Isser. All you're doing is fixing the keli by sealing its cracks. It's like honey in which ants fell. You can heat up the honey until it becomes runny. You and strain it. Ayin sham. Dafka yain. It's not specifically wine. Do it in shar mashkim, but there will also be other beverages. It's only if the chalev is between the boards, not if it's inside the actual barrel. Test. If you took from them a vessel which they use for hot, like pots, which they use cook iser, whether they're metal or wood, evan or stone, make sure you can kasha them. If it's metal, you need to toivel it afterwards. Also with glass, which you don't have to kasha though. But if you first did the tefillah, then agola, it's also okay. Some say some say you have to go back and toivel them again after kashing them. So in the mikvah, it's still holding on to a dead rodent. It's not the primary, the first opinion that you don't have to toivel again. Tefillah any mitzvah tumah. This tefillah is not to do with tumah, and so it does not do with iser. It's a separate kosuv. I feel like Yeshua ben Yomo, and even though those the Yeshomim agree that if it's Eino ben Yomo at the time you toivel it, Mayim saying tzorach la'asur you don't have to toivel it again. Came in the Raisa Mutera saying it's like a share to the other. Right, so it's moved to that point. It's not like holding the dead rodent. There's a Torah name of brings down name Hagon that stoneware is like earthenware and Hagolah doesn't work. Ravavas Kosadinam Klishetev, Ravavas writes that like metalware, that is the primary law. The opinion of Rav Hagon is not brought down at all in the Shulchan Aruch. In the Gemara talks about stones, the term kurzal, which a person uses for wiping himself. They're soft stones. Rashi is the cracked. If they're soft stone, they have they're cracked. Those of course are like klicheres. Maybe the Rav Hagon was talking about these types of stones. The kli etzem dino kli machos. Boneware is like metalware. The kappa associated with Karen and spoons which are made from animal horn. The Vora Chaim Simon Tana. The Ain't Lim Takona Bagola. You can't do Hakasha and the Kimishim Skalkim and Mayim Chamim. They ruin the hot water. Chayshina Dima Chai, so I'm afraid you're going to be overly concerned with them and not cash them properly. The same thing is true about knives which have a handle made out of animal horn. The which of course most likely would be ivory. Back then, not today. It's illegal. And so too, if the handle is glued on, you might be concerned that the the glue will get ruined. It's supposed to where it's bolted on. It's a tasman around. Kli schuches aim b'hem tash mishalchamin. Kli schuches, glassware, they don't have a use for hot. I don't know exactly what it means. It means I assume it means it doesn't render it also. How to do all this is explained in Arukh HaShulchan. He says in the brackets, Pearl Mutter, mother of pearl, who chazak is strong, Mutter Bagola, and you can kasher it. Yud, Dvarim Shem Shtam Shem Mem Aide, or stuff which you use through fire, not by cooking, Kamosh Pudim Maskos, like skewers and grills, Lo Mani Lagola, it's not good enough to kasher, the Tzichan Libun, or they have to be heated up in fire. The Kshesh or just like they used in fire, so too they are kasher by fire. If you did hagola in water, so keli which requires libun in fire, less klum, you didn't do anything. You can't use it for hot. Even if it's not on a fire. It still has an absorption of prohibited substance. Because it didn't give it all, emit all of it when it was just kasher as opposed to libun. We're afraid it might emit that isser in the second round of hot. But even something which requires libun, you can use it occasionally for cold. Such as if you're on the road. You can use a kli isser, which absorb the isser by being cooked, by cooking, or even by fire. By scrubbing and rinsing well. There's only on occasion, such as on the road, Oshu based Hakuti in a non-Jew's house, came to the Yevon, and after the fact, if you're based Israel, even a Jew's house, when you're up the creek in some way, shape, or form. But before the fact, ab initio, you're not allowed to use the kli iser, which was boleh when it was hot. I feel attached to even for cold. The tzarech hagola is the be a kasher or libun. Because they're afraid he might use it for hot. They let a Jew use them for cold. Okay, because even they're definitely used for hot. There's no prohibition to use for cold. Like mishum gzeira, only it's a gzeira, only it's on account of a gzeira. Therefore, it's a suffix. It was used for hot. It's not worthwhile being machmir. And so too anything similar.